Hasluck.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The people of Hasluck, who live just over 3,000 kilometres to the west of this House, have yet another reason to thank the Albanese government with the advent of the Labor's cost of living tax cuts. These tax cuts are consciously designed to assist people who are facing cost of living challenges. There is a tax cut for every Australian worker, for all, not a few, just as we had the member for McPherson try to assert. I note that this bill appears to be destined to pass with wide support in this House and perhaps also in the other place. That is as it should be. It is a good bill. It's a bill designed to meet the needs of ordinary Australian taxpayers. But would the Liberal Party have ever looked at the challenges faced by people on average incomes in 2024 after the pandemic and with the inflation and cost of living difficulties now present and decided to redesign their tax policy? Would the National Party have suggested a change to benefit people in need? No, I think we know that they wouldn't have. The Conservative parties will vote for this bill, but they would never have brought this bill in here. They don't like it. It is through tightly gritted teeth that they will vote for it, not because they want to help people, but because they know that this new tax bill is popular with the Australian people. And if they dared oppose it, the Australian people would punish them. And there's some irony in that this coalition that thrives on the politics of fear is too fearful to vote against this bill, because this is a popular bill. In my electorate, we have had many people calling and writing in support of this government, the Albanese Labor government, finding a better way to deal with Scott Morrison's old Stage 3 legislation. Quite a few of the people in Hasluck in support are not actually even beneficiaries of the change. That has been heartwarming. We have had examples of people on high incomes, self-funded retirees and others not directly advantaged, corresponding with my office to support the change. They recognise that in these times it's people on average wages who need a hand to make ends meet, not the full benefit that would have otherwise flowed to those at the top end of the scale. So many Australians have demonstrated that they take the view that it's not all about them and that the government should do the right thing, as it's doing here. The knee-jerk reaction of members opposite, always ready to defend those at the top end, was exemplified by the utterance of the member for Farrer that they would roll back the changes, even before that they'd seen the legislation or had heard of any of the detail. Now, of course, they say they will vote for it, but I'm left unsure. What will they really do? Will they back it in now and then try to take it back like the member for Farrer threatened? The coalition position is truly unclear. And it was lovely, in fact, to hear the member for McPherson suddenly discovering the need for integrity and honesty in politics, perhaps 18 months or 2 years, a little too late. But to the point about the importance of governments implementing policies, we have delivered already an array, and I can't help but to run through them because they are all, in fact, excellent cost of living measures, including the crucial and anti-inflationary electricity bill relief, cheaper medicines by reducing the maximum cost of scripts and allowing 60-day dispensing, which was 5 years after the coalition revised to allow for it. We've made the largest investment in bulk billing in Medicare's 40-year history, creating 58 bulk billing urgent care clinics, including one at North Street Medical in Midland. We've made cheaper childcare, we've expanded the parental leave scheme, and we've had 2 years now of fee-free TAFE and supported real wage increases. And when we consider that list of valued supports, most of which the coalition voted against, and some of which they spoke against, and none of which they thought of doing or suggested, we might realise that just as these very welcome tax cuts, none of this cost of living relief would have been delivered by a Liberal national government. Pretty much every voter in Hasluck would have been worse off today if those opposite were somehow still in power, if the member for Cook was still Prime Minister and still the secret minister for various other things. This Prime Minister And our financial team made this tough decision to do the right thing for working households, the economy and for the country. Because when circumstances change, so should your decisions. When the economy changes, so should your approach and your policies. And of course, policy development is a novel concept for those opposite. The member for Bargo had a good whinge on this bill, but he didn't suggest what he would do to help people with their cost of living challenges. Likewise, the member for Casey had a whinge and had nothing positive to offer. The member for Hume, who is apparently shadow treasurer and should have a policy by now, did nothing but moan. It's all right to criticise, but members opposite need to say what they would do, apart from reluctantly voting for our legislation merely because they are too afraid to vote against it. Come over to Hasluck and try to explain yourselves to my constituents. In Hasluck, people doing it tough understand that they stand to benefit from these changes, and those doing it okay understand that that's where the help needs to be directed. The only people who don't seem to understand this are the opposition. Nurses in Hasluck will benefit from the Albanese cost of living tax cuts. There are over 11,000 people in Hasluck who work in healthcare and social assistance. A nurse on a taxable income of $76,000 will get a tax cut of $1,629. Teachers in Hasluck will benefit from the Albanese government cost of living tax cuts. There are over 7,000 workers in Hasluck who work in education and training. A teacher on $80,000 will receive a tax cut of $1,779. Police officers in Hasluck, they'll benefit from the Albanese government's cost of living tax cuts. There are over 5,000 workers in Hasluck who work in the public administration and safety. A police officer on $102,000 will receive a tax cut of $229. Average workers in Hasluck will benefit from the design of the Albanese government's tax cuts. They can go to the tax cut calculator to see how much they'll save. Just go and search the words tax cut calculator. It's that easy. Those savings will start to flow from July this year. And these tax cuts, moreover, are good for women. There are over 85,000 taxpayers in Hasluck and over 40,000 of them are women. As women currently earn on average less than men, an issue this government is addressing, they will on average benefit more from these tax cuts. 90% of women taxpayers will be better off under Labor's plan. As my friend the member for Newcastle rightly stated, under the old Morrison Stage 3 plan, women were overlooked. Many of these women in Hasluck are people I've met while door knocking, working a job or two or more, while also managing a household and children. Every dollar counts, and now there'll be more dollars to count and to go towards those everyday expenses. We are less than 18 months from an election, Deputy Speaker, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being able to tell the people of Hasluck about the many achievements of this government across each and every portfolio. I'm looking forward to reminding them of the cost of living measures that have supported them through this time, just as we committed. And I'm particularly keen to remind them that these tax cuts apply to every taxpayer at a time when every taxpayer, and especially those on a modest income, really need them. And I know that those opposite are secretly relieved to be voting for this bill so that they too can go back to their constituents and tell them the exact same thing. I am proud of the Albanese government's cost of living tax cuts, and I support the bill.